Welcome to Massive Passive Cash Flow, the podcast that guides professionals to financial prosperity. Join our community and let's start building your wealth. Here's your host, Gary Wilson.
Hello, everyone. This is Gary Wilson, and welcome to Massive Passive Cash Flow Podcast. Gary Wilson, your host. I'm glad to have you on again. And we got a special guest today, Lauren Cohen, who I'll introduce in just a moment. But a little bit of housekeeping. If you could, and you haven't done so yet, please feel free to subscribe to the podcast. It's on 30 different channels, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, you name it, it's out there. And thank you for the downloads. We're now being downloaded in more than 50 countries and thousands of downloads every time a podcast goes out. So thank you for that. By the way, we've had a lot of questions coming in about the, how to get a hold of these investor agents that we've trained. So if you go to just write this down, it's www.rewgw, stands for Real Estate with Gary Wilson. You can even type that in, realestatewithgarywilson.com. Click on the members area. This is easy. Click on there's a tab up top. It says members. Click on that. You go to the next page. If you're a member, you know what to do. You go to the left. If you're not a member, go to the right and get in for free for 30 days. And while you're in there, I suggest you grab everything you can get. There's 5 free books you can get. There's all kinds of recordings on previous webinars. There's dozens of website links we use to research. It's an abundance of tools and strategies and information. So have at it. And while you're there, grab yourself a certified investor agent. We're on a team called the Global Investor Agent Team, 25 states already. And we just started it last year. Okay. I know they're good. I know they know what they're doing because I train them. It's the only place to get that certification. So do yourself a favor. They have the tools to get property, identify properties off market, identify properties, analyze properties, negotiate properties for you and me. Remember, we're all investors here. So these guys are trained specifically to work with us. They're not your average everyday agent. So in any case, enough of that. Let's go ahead and get to Lauren. Lauren, how are you? And by the way, thank you very much for taking your precious time for being here. I know you're successful. I know people need you and want you from all over the world. And I feel incredibly blessed to have you on our podcast.
Thank you, Gary. I feel blessed to be here and glad to have made your acquaintance a month or so ago in DC. Yeah,
it's a great event. The top of the top. Yeah, it's humbled to be able to speak for a few minutes for everybody. It was a nice, pleasant surprise, and it's a pleasure to meet you too. So, now, Lauren, you have a very, very interesting life and an interesting life story. And some people probably know you on this podcast, but for those who don't, would you mind telling them? I know it's a little bit personal, but tell them about what happened years ago on your marriage and when you guys came back. It's so critical that people hear this, and it really will set the stage for us being able to help them.
Sure, absolutely. Well, it is the trajectory that set the stage for me doing what I currently do. So it was 2006, and I got married for the second time, actually, and we went on our honeymoon to Thailand. I met my ex-husband here in the U.S. He was originally from Canada, as I am, and we went on our honeymoon to Thailand. And unbeknownst to me, on our way back from our honeymoon, he was expeditiously removed, then deported, put into immigration jail and deported on our return trip at the Chicago O'Hare Airport. Why? Because he had engaged in this. It was something that you would not think was a really big criminal offense back when he was a teenager, and he was pardoned by the Canadian government, but the U.S. government, for immigration purposes, does not accept Canadian or any other pardon. And so he was inadmissible. I didn't know that. I wasn't an immigration lawyer at the time. He had an immigration lawyer. She did not advise appropriately, and so he was expeditiously removed, deported, put in immigration jail, and barred from entry. So here I am on the way back from a honeymoon alone, flying back to Miami from Chicago, and all alone. It was actually my dad's birthday, Elva Shalom, and it was a crazy time. And it is actually the reason that I do what I do. If not for that happening, I don't think I would have gotten into immigration. I don't think I would have found paths where others fail, which is what I do. I find solutions where others fail. I find ways to get people To Invest Across Borders, the name of my podcast, which Gary was a guest on, and that will be aired soon. Investing across borders is now my mainstay. I help people invest, live, work, and play without barriers, as I faced. And really, it was what caused me to develop my book, which is called Finding Your Silver Lining in the Business Immigration Process, and my nonprofit, Finding Your Silver Lining. Because at the end of the day, it's all about finding your silver lining through the clouds and persevering through the negativity to find your positivity and your way forward and your why.
Yeah, it's such a great story. And I know personally what that feels like. I was actually born in Germany myself and been in the States quite a long time. And I've had clients from more than a dozen countries around the world, personal clients. And one in particular was a family from Argentina. The parents were here, and they're now grandparents. One of the daughters was here with her husband and children. And the other daughter, who was an attorney, by the way, in Argentina, with a farm in the country and a condo in the city, has been trying to get through our crazy immigration maze for well over 7 years now. She owns a business house, or owns a property. And again, as an attorney, you think we'd be like, well, sign her up, you know. But without making any political commentary, I mean, we've definitely got to work on our system. I mean, there's a lot of beautiful, wonderful people out there, and we were all of us came from somewhere else. Unless you're a Native American Indian, your ancestors came from somewhere else. So we need to solve this. And Lauren, I thank you for taking a lead role in this effort to make this happen. So let's talk about that. Give us an example. Like what is it that you do when it comes to immigrants coming over, and how can they leverage what you and I do and what we know and how you serve them to work through that maze, perhaps, and enjoy some of the American dream?
So there's a lot of options that are available, but the key, especially for you and I working together, is my signature program, which is called How to Immigrate Through Real Estate. So a lot of immigration lawyers and lawyers in general and prospective clients are under the impression that you cannot invest in real estate and obtain an immigration visa, and that's simply not true. You cannot buy a single family home and expect to get a visa. But if you're developing a real viable business centered around real estate investing that's not a passive business, then we can help you to use that investment portfolio to qualify for an immigration visa. And we will find the right visa for you depending on where you're from, and figure out how to structure everything and how to coordinate and how to manage and how to accomplish your goals. But the key in all of it, Gary, and I think you'll agree with this, I know you will, is developing a strategy. Because way too many clients and prospective clients and people that are call up and say, I want to invest in Louisiana, I want to invest in Florida, I'm like, okay, and what is your goal? Well, we just want to invest. No, there's got to be a goal. Do you want a return? Are you looking for cash flow? Are you looking for money on the sale of the property, like a profit? What is your goal? Do you have a visa in process? Do you have a visa that you want to look at? Is there a possibility you want to run your business or send your kids to school in the US or Canada? How does that all look? So it's got to be a strategy, a comprehensive strategy that looks at the whole picture of you and your needs over the short and long term to figure out how to implement that. Now, if you're a business owner, let's look at your business. Let's look at how to expand your business across borders and how that looks. And what do we need to do to get your business into another country? And what kind of employees do you need? What kind of systems do you need? Operations? It's a comprehensive process. And I think that a lot of people don't realize how comprehensive it is. And the one thing that I do, which is different than pretty much anybody, as I think you know, having worked with many immigration and other lawyers in the past, I'm not an immigration lawyer per se. I'm a concierge quarterback. So somebody comes to me and says, I need this, and this, or they say, I don't know what I need. I'm going to help them to get all those pieces in place. Just like a general contractor gets your whole house done, I get your whole process done, whether there's a visa involved or not.
That's awesome. You know, it's interesting. One of the things I really admire about you, Lauren, is when I mentioned I have investors from around the world, I just was one directional. It's them coming here to the States to invest here. But what's interesting is I from speaking with you back in Washington, D.C., you're able to actually help in both directions too. I mean, there's people who invest in other countries
Correct.
all the time, and I know that. But so for everybody listening, bear in mind this isn't just one directional.
No.
If you're a foreign national in the States and you want to invest in other countries, Lauren can help you there too. Or if you're a U.S. citizen,
American,
invest in other countries. Yeah.
And also a big place that's looking positive right now, not necessarily the GTA, the Greater Toronto area, but parts of Canada are very appealing, easy to invest in. It's a great, it's regulated, so you don't have to worry about, the risks as much. Maybe the price points are higher, but your dollar also goes further if you're American. So and looking all over the world, which is part of why we're with EXP, because we can basically look at deals all over the world, from India to Mexico to Israel to Brazil to France to the UK to Australia, you name it. And that's the beauty of working internationally, is that there's no reason that you can't do deals across borders. The key is, though, when you're doing them, as Gary knows, you have to have proper legal and tax counsel. And that could be an accountant and a lawyer. Why? Without that, you're going to end up paying double tax. You're going to end up compromising your legal liability, and you're going to end up messing the whole deal up. So why would you not get the right professionals in place from the get-go? Doesn't make sense.
Exactly. Yeah. And please write this down. If you're listening to this and listen to what Lauren said, what she said is so critical. See, when lawyers go to law school, they don't specialize in school. They all get a degree in law. They specialize in the field. A lot of people don't know that. There's a lot of attorneys who profess to be, they can help you with everything in your life. It's like they're trying to be all things to all people. But Lauren will tell you, the body of law when it comes to international law is very specific. And just like a lawyer who focuses on trust law, there's lawyers who focus on divorce law, and that's really what you want to look for. And it's different bodies of law. So when it comes to international, buying and selling internationally real estate, you can't just have your lawyer down the street help you out. You really need to have someone like Lauren. It's very, very specific, and we are actively working on a couple of international transactions now, and it's even more critical. And you're dealing with people with 3 countries sometimes, So keep that in mind. And now, Lauren, if you wouldn't mind, I know you've got a wealth of experience, but would you mind? People right now, I'm kind of reading my listeners' minds. They're probably wondering, well, how does this apply to me? But would you mind giving an example, maybe one of your best ones, and then maybe we can talk about one of your most challenging ones, and it could be some, dentist in Canada, for example. But if you wouldn't mind, without I know you've got to protect their identity, but really just an example of the transaction and the steps involved. And I think people will really open up. Because the guys, some of you may know this, I used to live in Canada too. I was married to a Canadian. Lived in Toronto, lived in London, Ontario. And it's a beautiful, wonderful country. And yes, you can invest up there just like you can invest in the States. But Lauren said it right. There's more regulation in places like Toronto, but there's also more regulation to protect you, the owner, making sure you make a profit. So Lauren, I'm sorry to ramble there, but if you wouldn't mind sharing, dig into your war chest of case studies, that'd be awesome,
Sure. So I think that there's so many client examples. One of the most obvious for your listeners is I work with many professionals, dentists, doctors, lawyers. Dentists tend to like to invest. They love to invest. They have disposable income. They're interested in investing, and they love investing. Canadian dentists love investing in the US. Okay. Now, I don't work exclusively with Canadians, but I work with a lot of Canadians because I'm from Canada and they call me the Canadian Whisperer. So for obvious reasons, I happen to have a lot of Canadian clients. One in particular came to me probably about 8 months ago, heard about me from somewhere or other, and wanted me to help them put a structure in place because they had some investments in the US. They didn't know what structure to follow. And here's the interesting thing. They actually had a Canadian-based US lawyer who had set up their original structure. And their original structure was not wrong. It was 3 times as much as they needed to pay for that. And the guy was in Canada. So, and he just kind of left them high and dry. Now, the key of working with me is this guy did not understand how to set up the structure for the purposes of a visa. He just knew how to set up the structure for the purposes of staying in Canada. There's a difference if you're going to stay in your home country or potentially get a visa. So what I do, bring in my cross-border tax guy, okay? Bring in that cross-border tax guy. He helps create the structure, make sure that everything is going to fit from the tax perspective, which is super important. And then we do the legal work to support that tax structure because you don't want to pay double tax. Yeah. So that's a really big deal. And also we set it up to have the ability to create the model that would allow this client to apply for a visa. He's not doing the visa application quite yet. He has some issues with the family and, COVID and all of that. But the key is that we're set up properly now so he's ready to go when the time comes.
Awesome. It's interesting. You touched on a couple of critical things. A lot of countries are reciprocal now when it comes to taxation and also information. I mean, they'll share, U.S. will share their information about you with Canada and vice versa. Yeah. For example, the first time I was up there, I actually went on the 407, the
paid highway, the toll highway.
Paid highways.
Mm-hmm.
I was following my GPS, wasn't paying attention, and I saw there was no gates. It's just they take a picture from this bar up above, and I thought, well, okay, I'll go on it, and maybe they'll never know who I am or where I am because I have Florida license plates. Well, what's interesting is I did get a notice in the mail only a week later, and they were very polite. See, in the U.S., if you go through a toll and you don't have a tag or whatever, most states will send you what I call a nastygram. Hey, if you don't pay this in 7 days, we're going to fine you. And Canada's not like that guy. Canada's very polite. Thank you for using our ETR. We're pleased that you travel up here. We trust you travel safely. Would you please, at your earliest convenience, pay this? Here's how you do it. That's the way it should be done. So we Americans can learn a lot from our neighbors to the north there. But in any case, just know this. The point here is that countries share information and they work with each other with taxation. And you need someone like Lauren to help you work figure out the maze through that. The code is written to be used. You just need to know somebody like Lauren who knows how to use it, So,
and I think that what you're saying is so important, Gary, because what happens is people think they go to you or me and they're like, well, what about this tax issue? And what about this legal issue? And what about this whatever issue? And I'm not a tax expert. You're not a tax expert. You know enough to get in trouble. You know enough about trust, certainly, to get in trouble. You also know enough to say, I've got a tax expert. I've got a trust expert. I've got an estates expert. I've got a bankruptcy expert, because right now I have a client who's dealing with an issue where they have a joint venture. They own a property as a joint venture in Florida, and the partner has declared bankruptcy without advising them. So there's a whole mess about the ownership and the property and everything. And so, then we have to bring in a bankruptcy expert. Well, this is what I do. When you work with me, I'm handling the whole kit and caboodle for you, hopefully. Yeah. Now, that doesn't mean clients always listen, right? But at the end of the day, if you have that trusted advisor, you need to speak with that trusted advisor and trust that the trusted advisor has your back.
Right.
And have a very open dialogue with them constantly.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And you're so right. So one of the things I'm thinking of going forward, we've mentioned the fact that we can work with people across the world in different countries, and we know how to navigate the maze between the countries and the different tax laws and everything. Mm-hmm. But are there certain countries in your opinion that you would say are easier than others, or is there, like, as far as where? I mean, the world's becoming very, very international. I mean, the information, everything's at everybody's fingertips. But what have you noticed, say, like since the last recession? Because it feels like we're heading for another one. I know people are going to be wondering about that too. But what can you tell people about, Australia's great, Spain's great. Well, I'm just throwing these out there, but any suggestions or any opinions on that as far as geography goes?
So I think that what really it's more about reporting and information than anything else. Because when we as North Americans are investing in other countries, I think for us, the key is to make sure that that other country has similar reporting requirements.
Mm-hmm.
For example, when you're investing in a country like India, there's a lot of backdoor deals that go on, okay? Mm-hmm. And we have no control over that because it's happening across the world, and there's money exchanging hands that hopefully is not exchanging hands in North America. For my clients, I would prefer, just especially as you're getting your feet wet internationally, to work in a country that has similar reporting requirements. Mm-hmm. That is not that's not like a free-for-all kind of thing, where there is a real estate licensure involved if you're investing in real estate, where you have some kind of a tax return requirement, a filing requirement. Okay, now being an immigration lawyer, I see this a lot because source of funds is a bigger issue in countries like India, Russia, Venezuela, where you don't have the same tax return requirements. Those are the countries I would not focus on initially. It doesn't mean that you can't eventually, but get your feet wet without having all of these additional issues that you don't have control over, because they are not only across the world, sometimes in a different language. And even if it's not a different language, it's a different language in terms of like, oh my God, I've never heard of these things before.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of law, like trust law. Trust law is one of the oldest bodies of law in the world of law. Trusts go back centuries. I mean, they started in England. And what's interesting, if you look around at the world and you look at, U.S., Canada, of course, England, South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, they're all English-based countries. And the law is very similar. Doesn't mean they're the same, but they have the same root, the same core structure going back centuries. When the Magna Carta was written, that was sort of a precursor to the U.S.'s, a Declaration of Independence. And the Magna Carta, kind of set the stage for a lot of development of law for the next several centuries. And it made it so things that like trust law, you don't have to be extremely wealthy to use trust, guys. You can, average everyday folks can use trust now. Mm-hmm. Well, guess what? Trusts are very important when it comes to international trade, particularly in real estate. We use trust a lot. But as far as timing goes, and one thing I want to touch on, if you don't mind, Lauren, is you always have differences in currencies, different exchange rates that change all the time. There's a whole industry just trading money, people buying some money. And if the U.S. dollar is at least my experience, typically the sort of the ground zero or the basis from which everybody trades. Everything's done in the broken down to the U.S. dollar, what the actual trade looks like. But as far as timing, I don't want to scare people, but bursting economies, maybe that's not a good term to use. Bustling economies never keep going. I've never seen an up economy not go down, but I've never seen a down economy not go up. So it's nothing to worry about, but it's something to prepare for. So relative to timing, if you have any case studies or words of wisdom on that, as the U.S. goes, so goes the rest of the world. Typically, when it comes to economics, I mean, maybe the world's changing and it'll be China in 50 years. Who knows? But in your experience, is there a time to hit the gas, or is there a time to kind of put the brakes on relative to what we're seeing now economically? Inflation, people outbidding each other is just crazy,
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say so. And I'm not, I wish I had a crystal ball. I think that when you're ready to invest, that's when you're ready to invest. And maybe now is not the time to invest in single family homes because of the crazy bidding wars that are going on. I've never seen bidding wars like that here in South Florida, and here they are. I come from Toronto. I've seen them all my life there. Mm-hmm. And my mom was in real estate for a long time. So it was part of my growing up years. But I think that when you're ready to invest, that's when you invest. Don't wait until the perfect time. Do it when you're ready, because at the end of the day, that's the right time to do it.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, by the way. The cool thing is about investing in real estate is there's an abundance of strategies. There are strategies for an up market, strategies for a down market, strategies for everything you can imagine. So investors never stop investing. We just use different strategies depending on what the circumstances are. And it's so much easier today because we have so much information available to us, and we can research where money's coming from, where it's going to. We can research, zoning plans going out 30 years. There's all these things we can do at our fingertips that we couldn't do even a generation ago. Now, as far as like how people actually go about doing this, I don't know if there's a way we can break this down, like of people from other countries investing in the United States and people from the United States investing in other countries. What are the steps? Like, what is, if someone's coming from Germany, for example, what are some of the 3 or 5 things that have to occur, and how do they actually go about doing that?
Well, the first step is that they need to figure out, again, their short and long-term strategy. If there's a visa involved in their investment plan, how that looks. Then we bring on the cross-border tax guy or girl. Sorry.
There you go.
And get that structure in place to make sure that you're not violating tax laws and you're not going to be subject to double taxation. Then we get the transactional attorneys going to set up the right limited partnerships or LLCs or whatever your entity structure is based on your investment portfolio and your strategy, right? So everything's all connected. And then once we get those structures set up, we develop a business plan along those lines, and the business plan may or may not have a visa involved. And we make sure that we bring in all the other team members that we need, whoever those might be, whether it be realtors or business brokers or, business opportunity people in other states or other countries, and collaborate together and bring the team together to help you execute on all of your plans, basically. Now, the key is that if you do want a visa, and you do get the visa, the buck doesn't stop there. That's really when it starts. And you have to start working on an ongoing basis with me and my team to make sure that your visa stays intact and that you can renew it or transition to a different type of immigration status if that's the path that you're pursuing. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, we could probably go on and on. I know we're probably getting close to our magical half hour here, but how can people get a hold of you? Because it seems to me like if they just start with you, all the things you're describing, the 5 things you need to do, for example, really, if they start with you, all that's going to go a lot more easily because you've got the contacts, the steps, and you can coach them through that. So how does someone engage with you? What would someone expect if they first call you up? Is there an interview process, consultation?
Yes, we have a consultation.
Okay.
I can offer your listeners a discounted consultation, and I'll send you the link for that for the show notes. Okay. I also have a podcast, and I have my main website for my podcast is laurenesq.com. And if you go there, you can always find an easy way to contact me. My main website is eCounsel Global, ECOUNCIL Global, GLOBAL. Or you can go to Real Estate Across Borders. That's my other site, and you can always find us there. If you are a real estate professional, please reach out. I have an international real estate mastermind for real estate professionals. And we are doing a lot of things to help our people through. Just let us know if you don't grab the link from the show notes. Let us know that you came to us through Gary's podcast, and I'll be happy to extend that discounted consult to you. And in that consult, we can just figure out what you want to do and get at least some first steps in place toward doing it and give you some feedback on how it looks in terms of your goals, short and long term.
Awesome. Well, so for listeners here, if you want to jot this down, and we'll put this in the show notes too, there is a link you can get. It's a bit.ly link. So just, bit.ly, right? bit.ly. You don't have to write that down. It's the common, but then after the slash, it's RE, the letters for real estate, RE, across borders, all one word, contiguous, RE across borders, okay? And there is a coupon code, and it's REI, the number 4 in the word free. So it's REI for free. And I want to go into the, if you don't mind, Lauren, I want to go into the link here. Let me go back. Hang on one second. When we first put this together, because you put a lot of those in there, and I just want to make sure we'll call them out here, and then we'll put them in the show notes so everybody will get to, they'll hear it and see it twice. So the first website was Lauren, LAURENESQ for LaurenEsquire.com. Okay. Then there's eCounselGlobal.com. Okay. And then CrossBorderInvestmentLawyer.com. And there's a couple others if you're interested in this. I know there's some good information here. ImmigrateThroughRealEstate.com. I thought that was really awesome. ImmigrateThroughRealEstate.com. And finally, eCounselInc.com. So, in any case, hey, Lauren, any final words of wisdom? And I want to preface it by saying, I know how lucky we are to have you on this. I know you're extremely good at what you do, and you're extremely in demand across the world. So this has been a real privilege for me. But if you're having an elevator conversation or get in an airplane, people sit down and they always say, "What do you do?" And like I do, I know that we can help them, but if it's easy to overwhelm people. So sometimes it's great just to give them a sentence maybe your granddad taught you or your mom taught you, the realtor your mom. Anything you wouldn't mind sharing?
My mom doesn't quite fully comprehend exactly what I do. She's like, because real estate is usually local.
Yeah.
That's how most people think about real estate. It's not local anymore.
Yeah.
So what I do is help you invest across borders painlessly, find ways to invest, live, work, and play globally, and create a global presence for yourself and for your business and for your real estate investments. And so do me a favor, don't try to do it without speaking with a professional, because you will end up hitting walls, and it's worth a small investment in yourself and your business to make sure that you pave the path to your success over the short and long term. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, we really do appreciate you doing this. And for everybody listening, we appreciate you too. Thanks for being here. Remember, you can go to the website, realestatewithgarywilson.com. Click on members area, actually on the homepage. Grab those. There's free 10-page booklets right on the homepage you can grab and start from there. Fill out the work with me form. Okay. And you can get a free interview if you like. And if you're an agent, there's a tab for you too. The Global Investor Agent team is now 110 strong in 25 states. And we've only been growing it for a year. So if you want to be part of something really spectacular, like Lauren said, people aren't just investing in their local towns anymore. It is growing, and it's growing fast. Yep. So in any case, God bless you and your family.
Thank you. Thank you, Gary. It's a pleasure as always. I'll see you on the other side.
Yeah, sounds good, Lauren. You guys take care. Lauren, take care of yourself too. And I'll
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Massive Passive Cash Flow. Be sure to go to realestatewithgarywilson.com to join our community and start building wealth today.